Yeah, you know what? I'm not seeing any dried pasta, so what am I going to do? Wait, you know what? I have eggs, I have flour, I have salt, I even have a rolling pin. I can just make fresh pasta, right? Fresh pasta. That's the way to go. That's what we're doing today. We are making fresh pasta. I'm going to show you a great ratio. It's going to be great. Let's get started. Making fresh pasta is super easy. You don't need to get frustrated by trying to find a bunch of different recipes for it. It only takes a couple different ingredients like flour, eggs, salt, olive oil, and really the only piece of equipment you need is a rolling pin. Making fresh pasta is super easy as long as you follow the ratio of 3 parts flour and 2 parts eggs, or to put it even more simply, a cup and a half of flour to 3 eggs. Make it well with your flour, fill your eggs in there, a little splash of olive oil, a pinch of salt, and grab a fork. Now you're going to use your fork to slowly whisk in your flour into your egg mixture, and you're just going to use it until it starts to come together, until you have to use a dough scraper like this, or you can just dive in and start using your hands. Start working that flour into that egg mixture as much as you can. If you feel like your dough is getting a little too sticky, just add a little bit more flour. It's not a big deal, and just keep working that dough. Work the dough for about 5 to 10 minutes. You want that gluten network to get nice and strong, and you want your dough to be nice and smooth, and you want it to have the consistency of Play-Doh. Now that our dough is nicely kneaded for about 5 to 10 minutes, it feels just like Play-Doh, it's nice and smooth, it's time for a nap. We're going to wrap it in plastic wrap really tight so there's no air bubbles. We're going to put that in the fridge for about an hour, and while that's happening, you can take a nap. Our dough is done resting, so it's time to roll it out. We're going to lightly flour our work surface, plop that dough down, dust it with a little bit more flour, get that rolling pin out, and then start to roll it out. The thickness of your dough is really up to you, but a good rule of thumb is if you can see your hand through the dough, it's probably thick enough. If you want really nice, straight, even noodles, try to roll your dough out into a rectangle or a square, but if you get a circle, it's okay. They'll still taste good. There are a number of different tools you can use to cut your dough. You can use a bicycle cutter like I'm going to do. You can use a knife. You can buy an assortment of different cutters online. I'll have links in the description to a whole bunch of them if you want to check them out. And when your noodles are cut, dust them with some flour. They can go straight into boiling water. You can freeze them for later. They'll last in the fridge for a couple hours and be just fine, and you'll have great tasting noodles. Now I know I said you only need a rolling pin to make pasta dough, but it could be easier if we had, let's say, a KitchenAid mixer. So let's see what that would look like. If we had a cup and a half of flour, 3 eggs, a little bit of salt, and a little bit of olive oil. Just set your mixer to a medium-high speed. Make sure you're scraping down the sides if it needs it, and just let it go until you get a nice pasta dough ball forming. You want to let it sit in there for the same amount of time, about 5 to 10 minutes, so it's kneaded very nicely. When it's done, take it out, shape it into a ball, and you're going to wrap it up in plastic and put it in the fridge for another hour, just like we did the first time. We're going to do the same thing as last time. We're going to dust our work surface. We're going to dust the top of the dough, but this time we're going to cut it into 4 individual pieces so that way it's a little bit easier on our machine roller. We're going to flatten out the dough that we want to work with. You could use a rolling pin for this. It'll work just fine. And then with your other pieces that you're not using, make sure you wrap them up or just cover them so that way they don't dry out. Any pasta roller you use is going to have a dial on it that's going to indicate the thickness that you're rolling. You want to start in the widest possible setting, roll it through to about half of your thickness, and then you want to laminate your dough by forming a nice little rectangle. This is going to help shape your pasta, and it helps the gluten network go in one direction. After that, you're going to roll it back through a couple more times, get it to the proper thickness that you're looking for. In this, I'm rolling it out to a 7, or like I said before, if you can see your hand through the dough, that's a good thickness for pasta, and you're good to go. If you don't have an automatic cutter or a bicycle cutter or anything, here's an easy way to cut it with a knife. You just want to make some folds in it. Make sure your dough is properly floured so it doesn't stick together. And just have a nice gentle sawing motion and cut the pasta to the thickness you like. When it's fully cut, dust it with some more flour, open everything up, toss the flour, make sure everything's coated very evenly. And like I said before, this can be frozen or it can go straight into water. It'll last in the fridge and you'll have some really awesome fresh pasta. Fresh pasta could not get more simple. All you need to remember is that 3-to-2 ratio, or a cup and a half of flour to 3 eggs. You will no longer need to worry about dried pasta at all. You can have fresh pasta whenever you want. Thank you guys so much for watching. I appreciate all your support. If you have any questions or if you really like this video, please leave me a comment down in the comments below, and be sure to subscribe, hit that bell for notifications, and I will see you next time, chefs.